I'm gonna go through some pointers with you that I've noted down that I believe are, well, what I'm gonna describe today and explore with you this idea of divine discontent. And it's a new concept to me, but I've experienced, I guess, this feeling, these symptoms since I was really young. So that's today's topic and it's a big segment to cover. So I'm going to split this video into 2 or 3 parts. In the first part, we'll be going through what each point about divine discontent can mean for you in your life, what it means in my life, kind of what I understand about it. You might have your own interpretations, so encourage you to get out your notebook and pen if any of this resonates with you, because one of the things that I noticed happens is that you might think about it differently in your head than what you would write about it. So it might be a good idea to write about it. You can always come back to this video though, so that's the good thing about this recording. And the second part of this video, I'll be going into some techniques, things we can do, things that I've been doing that has helped me get through, make some breakthroughs, some real breakthroughs in understanding recently. And I'll also be pulling a couple cards for the collective, for me and you, for that. So let's get right into it. The divine discontent, in a nutshell, can mean many different things. And you know, I think looking at it from a point of view of just something a bit different than just talking about anxiety or depression, for example, divine discontent, it's trying to talk to something bigger than just your fears. It's talking to something that can genuinely happen to a lot of us, especially if you're called to this channel, to this video. You might have some of these tendencies. So number 1 is feel confined or limited in the physical world. I don't feel like I have to say too much more than that sentence, but just in case you kind of want to hear some more about that, you know, there's the physical limitation of your body, first and foremost, right? You might feel like sometimes it's uncomfortable being in your body. You might feel like you're bigger than your body, and it's frustrating that you can't always go as quickly as you want to. You have to kind of go through all of your bodies, so to speak, your emotional, your mental, your physical, your energetic or spiritual body, and that takes time. The other limitation I would say that comes links with probably money, the limitation of you know, you can only have as much in your world as what you've technically earned. However you've earned those things, though, can look a bit different. Some people work for it. Some people get lucky, might inherit that. Some people actually are co-creating with the universe through synchronicity, for example, and get by not just through having to earn the money, but most of us have to earn it. It could also cross it over into your sexuality and the way that you express yourself. Maybe you feel like your physical is limited in that way. So there's lots of different ways to look at it, actually. And that's what I mean. Just with one sentence, we can unpack so much. And the layers, the more you delve into the layers with something like this, the more you really hone in on all the pieces of information, the better the outcome, because you find out more from just a small segment of information, as opposed to having to read 5 books, and have tons of that information be forgotten. It's good to have that coherency when looking at this divine discontent specifically, but any kind of inner work that you might be finding yourself doing now or in the future. So number 2 is another definition of divine discontent, is that you feel more at home in unconscious fantasy. I feel like this can link with... I'll start with some of the more obvious things, because I wouldn't call them unconscious, but I would say that there's a lot of distractions in the world, that so much so, it could be movies, could be video games, it could be any kind of external activity. One of the things that we could do, if we wanted to, is never do any inner work or look inward, because there are so many distractions in the world, and some people choose that path. Other people, I think, that maybe can't get enough satisfaction with the outside external activities, or even just playing video games, because I know that you might explore that avenue for years, for example, but then after a while, maybe not. Or maybe you go to those distractions every now and again as like a healthy kind of thing. Depends where you are on that spectrum in terms of whether it's healthy or hindering your experience, because everything can be used as a tool. So it really depends on the ratio that you use it. But for me, I would say that even though I've delved into those worlds a lot, video games, etc., to go into a fantasy world, movies, books, and it's kept me sane in some ways. In other ways, it definitely felt like I could have maybe done more in the physical world, maybe developed more skills in other areas. The other side of this feel more at home and unconscious fantasy is that we tend to live in our minds a lot and imagine all kinds of things that can happen, and they feel amazing. Maybe they don't feel amazing, they feel terrible, and most of it never comes true. And we can we can think that this fantasy we live in inside of our heads ought to be the way things are and should be. And it's extremely painful when we realize that those are our own fantasies, and that the world is its own thing. Now, I'm not saying that you can't use your fantasy imagination, for example, world inside your mind to co-create with life. You can. And that's actually helpful. Really helpful. Especially when you know what you want and you kind of can apply action to that. And sometimes it will manifest, and it's really magical when that happens. Those kinds of synchronicities are wonderful. They just come from your head, and then all of a sudden it's in your reality. That's kind of the experience you can have as a being, an individual being. And I wouldn't say that those things can't happen. They definitely could. But if we tend to live more in the imagination world, and in the fact, if we retreat more into our imagination when something's not going well in our world, we can get trapped there, and we can end things in our physical world, or distort things, or maybe not try as hard with certain things in our physical world because we might be too stubborn in thinking that it's supposed to be the way our imaginations say it should be. And I just want to kind of give some love to ourselves in this moment for that concept, because I really feel like it's an innocent space that we go to when we do that, but it's unfortunately not always either true or rooted in reality, or it's just kind of something that you might find more in a book than in the real world. But I really don't want to dampen any of your imaginations, because they could come true. They really could. So again, balance with this point. I just want to make you aware that if you are living more in your imagination than in your physical world, it's really okay. But just recognize that, and maybe realize that anytime you're in an extreme pole, always gonna feel like you have to come back to the middle again, because it's just kind of the way that things work out here, is if you come back to the middle. So if you have a tendency to be more in your imagination, you're not alone. We're gonna pull some cards at the end here and see kind of what things we can do to take action and get outside of our minds a bit more. Because some of us, we might be visionaries and actually be really good in that imagination space, and actually it feels like it's a real world to us there, and technically it is. But we, again, can get trapped there just because it feels better. It feels better than the physical world does sometimes. And we are here to have a physical experience as well. And that's the part that it can take some of us a really long time. If we're on the other spectrum, because some people live in the physical world only, rarely visit the imagination past the age of 10, they have to come more into the imagination space. Those of us in the imagination space have to do the opposite, or balance it out. Just enough to your own ratio. I'm not saying you have to come to the middle every single time. I'm saying what ratio works best for you in terms of what you want to accomplish in your life, what matters to you in your life. If some of those imagination fantasies are getting in the way of you fulfilling your goals or dreams with jobs or relationships, then it might be a problem, right? Then it might be something that you have to sort of stop yourself from doing that as often. Try working it out in the physical then. So again, we're going through these, we're going to get there. So there's no rush. Just take it slow. Take it slow with every point that comes along. So number 3 is a question, actually. Are you accepting your own power? And that's because these first two points point toward if you're feeling them, like you feel confined in the physical and that you feel more at home in the imagination. It could mean that there's an aspect of you that is so different or unique that feels too painful or shameful to share in the physical world. But technically, it's you not owning your power, because you're here to share that part of you, and other people will probably need you to share that at some point. So you don't just do a disservice to yourself when you don't step into your power. It kind of affects other people as well. Again, we're not feeling like we need to guilt, blame, or shame here ourselves. We're feeling like we have to just go easy on ourselves. Because these aren't easy realizations, but we can do it. We can get through it if we treat ourselves like a nurturing, caring mother would. We're children of God, of light. We don't know everything. We're learning. You can't expect a child to know everything, you know? You just might have experienced these things and not had context for it. So, where are you accepting your power or not? Are there things you could be doing that you're not doing? Because you're worried about other people's judgment of them? Even though you love it. If you love it and you're afraid of what other people think about it, you shouldn't be afraid of what they think about it, because it's going to corrupt the energy there, and you'll find that your thoughts aren't always correct. You're projecting a fear onto other people, and there will be some people that don't resonate with you. You're not for everyone. But if you step into your power and it feels like it's a part of you that is, powerful, literally, there will be other people that feel grateful that you shared that part of you. So, just know that. Work on that in whatever way you can, moving forward. Okay, so number 4 is being preoccupied with your inner world. So, I'd say that this does come about because we live in a world that is more the opposite. I don't know if I can really say that like from a space of really knowing if that's the case, but I'd say that from when I look at when I'm around other people, just general public, does feel like there's more of a preoccupation with other people and the outside world. So I do want to say that if you're preoccupied with your inner world, might be a reason, might be to balance out the fact that a lot of people are not. But again, we don't go to extremes with that, because it can be very it can be too much. If you're preoccupied with your inner world, you're constantly taking everything personally, first of all, because you think you're the cause of it, the things that go on around you. Or if you've gotten past that stage where you don't think or take everything personally, you might be constantly checking in on your emotions, on your thoughts, and awareness is important, of what's arising for you in any given moment. But some of us might get trapped or caught there. It can be a bit of a vortex. It can feel like you have to deal with all of your emotions right here, right now. And even though you do have to acknowledge them when they arise, you can change the channel if you need to. Like if you want to focus on what's going on externally in a moment, you can do that. It takes practice, and this work is so complicated because you don't always know what's right to do. So you kind of have to just wing it, roll with it, see what works for you, and you're probably going to make mistakes, but those mistakes help you to learn, so they're happy accidents, as Bob Ross would say. Okay, number 5 is sensitive to pain and suffering of others. this can make you, number 6, retreat from yourself and them. And number 7, find it hard to fully involve yourself. So that's a 3. It's a compact one. So retreat from yourself and others. Find it hard. First one. Sensitive to pain and suffering of others. That you retreat from yourself and them and find it hard to fully involve yourself. So there's a type of avoiding, a type of running away because you are feeling so deeply what's going on around you. And again, I do want to give the credit to those of you that are feeling the feelings of other people so deeply. It's not easy. It's not easy. And some people are not feeling these things as easily, either through practice or through the fact that that's not kind of who they are. They have a different role to play in the world. So if you're comparing yourself to the people that either have already mastered this skill, where they might feel other people, but they don't, it doesn't affect them. Or you're comparing yourself to people that just don't feel those things. It's going to feel like you're a failure. You know, that kind of thing is going to arise because you're comparing yourself. So don't do that. Recognize that you might have a tendency that's maybe needs a bit more TLC, tender loving care, needs a bit more awareness and time to understand it and overcome it. So this would be an area for us to spend a bit more time with if we do feel so much of what someone else is going through, whether they're a stranger or we know them. You have to be able to separate yourself. And the only way you can do that is to know yourself going into the situation. How do you feel? Like, check in with yourself. How do you feel? And if it's really blurry and foggy and you can't think straight, that would mean that you're not grounded. You're not able to sense what's yours and what someone else's. And as long as you know that, it doesn't always help. So what I would say is, really, if you ask yourself the question either before going into a situation or during or being in a situation, if you check in with yourself and you cannot tell how you're feeling, or you just don't have any words for it, it just feels foggy, cloudy, hazy, you don't have to try and have an answer there. You be honest and you say, I don't know how I'm feeling right now. I feel either 10 million things at once, or I feel nothing. At least you're being honest, and from there, you're not lying to yourself or anyone else. The best ideal case, though, would be that you know going in how you feel, where you are, just how you feel, who you are, what you want from the experience, or just from the day, or just something simple. And it may change in each moment. But if you just have that foundation, first of all, kind of your intention going in, what you want to happen and what you do feel in the moment, you can notice when it changes. If you can't notice when it changes, then I would suggest you keep listening, because I'm going to go through the ideas of some practices we can do. There's many of them, so I'm going to try not to give you too many. But it does just take practice. So, again, it would be helpful to not always avoid these situations, even if you can't think straight, for example, because you've got so many feelings going on, you're feeling other people. The more you practice in that space, trying to feel into yourself and just maybe feeling the energy of the room, what's going on there, you might have a clearer understanding. There's some things that you might be better at than others, so have some fun with it, explore a little bit. Treat it like it's a game, not so serious, where you have to feel into all of the pain and suffering of someone else. You don't. You have your own. They don't want you to feel their pain or suffering. They don't want you to change their pain and suffering. They want to receive just support and fix it themselves. And the same goes for you. You just want to receive support from others. You don't want others to fix it for you, because that would mean that you're not in your power. That would mean that it doesn't work. Really, it doesn't work, because you have to kind of do this work for yourself. So a lot there, so much there. Really could expand more on these, but again, you could maybe go back and listen again, or write these things down. Whatever feels most comfortable and nurturing for you, please do it. So the last point I want to mention here, in terms of what divine discontent can feel and look like. So having a deep psychic awareness of feelings of other people. That's basically what we just talked about. So it could be a superpower that's not being used as one yet. Just want to say that, because there's a reason why you might be able to feel into other people so well. That doesn't mean that you should be taking on their energy, though. It means that you do have to learn how to separate, observe, protect yourself, ground yourself, all of these kinds of things. You do have to learn them, because then, once you've learnt that, you get to be like this clairvoyant, this person that, kind of knows what someone's going through just by looking at them. And the communication happens more seamlessly, more quicker, I notice. It's almost like there's a trust that is developed when other people seem to, if you're with someone and they seem to just get you, or they say something that's going through your head, that kind of psychic bond or awareness can actually bridge a lot of the difficulties we face in miscommunication, because it's already there, it's already in your mind. So it can actually mean that you connect with people really well on the other side of it when it's used as a superpower. Just keep that in mind, There is a reason for it. It can seem like a drag when you haven't learned the things that help with this. It can seem like a real problem, but that's because on the other side of it, it's a superpower. So yeah. All right, so I have actually picked up a deck. I've had it for a while, years. Rarely use it. It's the Toth deck, and I used it recently, and I actually programmed it to be for a specific intention. And so it's more based around career and relationships. This deck is what I've programmed it for. So just as I'm shuffling, and just as you're tuning in to kind of your own, checking in with your own self, where you're at, all of that, I'm just going to read off some things we can take action toward when it comes to feeling this divine discontent. Things that might help, things that will steer us in a more positive direction, because this divine discontent overall could be seen again as, once we master it, it can be a superpower to feel all of these things and get to the other side, because it carries some really deep existential pain that can be transformed into a deep love for life. So, number one, in terms of looking at this from the bright side, move toward a more universal sense of yourself. So, if you're feeling like you don't have some kind of direction in your life, whether it's career-based or relationship-based or just anywhere within life, you know, that resonates for you, doesn't have to be any of those two things, but those seem quite pertinent right now. If you can't seem to find what's unique and individual to you about your mission here, it might be because you're meant to look for a more universal sense of who you are. And this, I would say, goes beyond your personality, actually. Goes beyond your ego. Even though those things are important to consider and they make you who you are, I'd say that looking at archetypes, looking at your astrology, looking at the things that might have been put in place for you when you came here, that make you who you are, that aren't just your own personal experiences. They're like the things that seem to be kind of more foundational, because that can give you a more universal sense of yourself. It can give you so other people come in with these qualities too. Oh, okay, so I'm not just like this unique little being in the middle of the universe that just has no map. People like me have existed before. And yes, I might be here to do something different to them, but I can get a general idea of my universal sense of self here as well. That could be unpacked so much more. So I'll leave that to you to do that. Another point with this, actually, that looking at your universal sense of self, like more about what kind of you want to see happen in the world, for example, that's less personal and more kind of involved with the community, more involved with humanity. You can find a way to subordinate your own will, your own personal will, toward that of divine will. And so all this means is that if you are having some divine discontent, it could mean that you can't find your way in just everyday activities. It seems like nothing in your everyday world is pointing toward what you should be doing. So you have to go for more of this like overall archetype or understanding of what divine will would do through you, of what divine will would have you do being here. Okay, because it can create a deeper connection with life. If you can't find connection in other people sometimes, or in nature, or just in anything like that, sometimes it's because you're meant to connect with the energy that is bigger than you, that created you. And it can just simply look like being able to understand the true needs of others and of life in general, and making that the thing that you're aiming toward. So, for example, if you want to see more people get helped, you know, that have mental health, or more animals be saved, or you might notice that there is a need. Potentially, you would have to maybe do some research. You'd have to maybe feel into it. There is a need for you to start building toward your own animal sanctuary, or start getting some training in becoming a therapist, or just simple things like that. They are for you, but they're because you kind of feel drawn to them already. So it's for you and for other people. That would be a case of steering more toward, instead of your own personal will, which might just want to be in paradise all day, like have all the food it ever wants, all the relationships that it ever wants. Your personal will, even though it might feel good to give in to those desires in your imaginary world, for example, it's not what's going to make you feel the most fulfilled. Because the most fulfilling part is pairing your personal will with divine will, which is being of service to others as well as being of service to yourself. You don't just want to be of service to others, though, and do a job or be in a relationship that's for someone else, or that benefits something else and not you. It does have to benefit you as well. Whatever ratio works for you, but being 51% of service to others, 49% of service to yourself is a good ballpark. Okay. Another thing is, when you do have this divine discontent, you might be very called to work on personal transformation. And there might be a good reason for that, because you have a lot of things to transmute within you, because you carry maybe just more information, more memories, karma, your ancestral DNA. There could be all kinds of things that come through. Past lives, if you believe in it, or even just your experiences as a child. There could be so much there for you to transform, and once you do, everything will fall into place. But just be aware that you can be called toward personal transformation in your inner world too much. You can kind of become obsessed with healing yourself, when technically you're already healed, and you could help other people. You don't have to be perfect before you can help other people. It might seem like it helps, but everyone here on this planet has some kind of shadow or difficulty they're working through. So basically what helps the most is to not judge yourself or other people when you're going through certain things. I do think, though, again, the ratio thing is important. There are some people that I don't think should be helping other people. They could really do with some personal transformation. Or they shouldn't just be working as hard as they are just to make money. They should maybe look at personal transformation, but that's not for me to say. So even though I might have that opinion, doesn't mean that I'm right, doesn't mean that I know what they're going through. I don't know what's best for them. I know what's best for me. You know what's best for you. So yeah, being aware of your judgments towards other people is a big one. Yeah. So in terms of the deep psychic awareness of the feelings of other people, I'm probably going to do another video on this. This is huge. So I actually recorded a video for this a couple of days ago. Didn't work out though. So I will do another segment on this, or if you want to work with me on this for a reading one-on-one, because I do personal readings, we can work through this idea that I'm about to explain to you of when you have this psychic awareness of everyone else's feelings, you have to go through a type of grounding your energy and knowing how to do that truly. Because it's a type of protection mechanism. You know how I said if you check in with yourself and you can't tell how you feel, could be many reasons for that. Some people just generally can't tell what they feel. So that's an issue into itself. But, you know, there are times where you might be able to give it a word, hopefully. And if you can't do that, you're really fuzzy in your head, it can mean that you're not grounded and that you might get yourself into a situation where you feel even less capable of stepping into your power. You know, like you could get yourself into sticky situations because you're not really protecting your energy. You're confused in your mind, in your emotions, etc. So, learning how to protect yourself, how to ground yourself, how to shield yourself, that's one of the things that I had come to me about 3.5 years ago, is this idea of a shield. It's actually a resonance. It's colours for me. I see it as colours that expand and also has a resonance, a sound to it. Really powerful just to think of your own kind of sound or colour or even a spirit animal. Something that makes you feel like you have this element of you can call on where you feel more grounded, you feel more protected. And that leads then to knowing your boundaries. Because so again, this has to be a whole other topic that I talk about because I recently learned something about boundaries that is this whole other complexity that I didn't realize had been happening for so long to me, because it's more of an energetic boundary that we don't always realize we're letting other people cross, and it can cause a lot of anger issues. It can cause a lot of depression. So again, if you want to learn more about that, let me know in the comments. Maybe I'll make another video. But if you would like to see me directly get some one-on-one help with that, I have a Patreon page where you can join, get some readings there from me, or send me an email, misssynchronicity@gmail.com, and we can maybe get on a call together and I'll discuss with you this, because it's huge. So I'd probably need some time to explain. So some other things just before I pull this card for you. I did want to mention that, so recently I was called to get some flower remedies. I actually have bought from this lady before. I bought a spray and it's been really great. I love the smell of it. It's all natural stuff. And anyway, I saw this image on her Instagram, Lotus Way she's called. And for whatever reason, I kept feeling called to it. It's actually bee balm, and it's also known as horse mint. And mint had been calling to me for a while, so I would just because it kept coming up in my mind, I thought to myself, my body might be asking for me to try this out. So I actually did purchase the flower remedy. Looks like this, and the ingredients are, quite simple. They're ethically sourced honey. They are grape alcohol. They are the bee balm, and it also has some yarrow in there and some lotus flower essence. So I've been working with trying to every time I use it, there's some intentions that go with it, and it is hope, soothing calmness, and one-pointed focus. So it's been really helping me to feel like, because I'm going through a transition in my world, a big one at the moment. And when I read that this flower really aids, or the intention you can set with it, because everything can be programmed or set an intention with, it really aids with personal transitions. I felt really called to it. So just mentioning flower remedies in case that could be a physical thing that helps you deal with, divine discontentment, for example. So bee balm soothes intense stress and helps us to adjust to any kind of change or transition that disturbs the natural balance in our lives. It inspires hope and compassion and allows us to focus and be more lighthearted. So, just an idea. I haven't been using the exact dosage that she mentions because it's quite expensive if you do that. But I put in at least 11 drops into my water here. So, obviously other things like when you're going through this divine discontent, slowing down has come up a lot for me. Any information that comes through for you that's feeling a bit overwhelming, it might be because you're already carrying so much information. So you kind of need to slow down and let whatever information you've learnt so far rest into your bones, rest into your heart, and whatever information you've picked up that doesn't resonate with you, you pull it out, you let it go, and really try to just spend even 2 minutes, like even after this video, just sifting through what resonated and why and what didn't, so that you're not clogging up your mind too much, and that you don't have to like have like really intense dreams all the time where you have to like your subconscious, your unconscious has to sort through tons of information. You're doing it in the day. Just a little bit of advice to slow down. Use some cards to help you. We're going to pull a card. Crystals are a great, way of just slowing down and setting an intention, focusing. Plant medicine, flower remedies, as I said. Another thing that's been really helping me is therapy. I have actually been doing some therapy with BetterHelp. So that's an online therapy thing. I don't want to push therapy on anyone. I know how annoying that can be when people constantly mention it, and it seems like... But the only reason I mention it is just because, I did resist it for a long time, and it has been helping me. So, reaching out to somebody or a therapist can be really useful. I'm also going through some ACT therapy. I haven't really started it yet with a friend. If you're not sure what it is, look into it. That could be another option if you don't necessarily have the cash to spend on therapy. Things like that can hold people back, I know. So with therapy, I've been learning how to slow down a bit more as well. That's been helping a lot because I tend to think I've gone through something and got to the other side, and sometimes it's really not the case. So some other things are yoga. You probably know this, but yoga is really helpful. Moving energy through your body. I've just been practicing breathing recently and letting my body move, and any emotions that want to come up when I'm moving, and I'm just... all I'm doing is focusing on the breath. Just breathing and allowing my body to move however it wants to move. I'm usually stood up and I'm dancing and I'm moving and I'm exercising when I'm breathing. And sometimes I'll feel the need to yell or cry, and it's moving this energy, this trapped energy out of my body, these emotions that are trapped out, all with your breath. You don't even need to go and spend tons of money or get loads of things that I just mentioned to you. You can use your breath, you can move, and it really is so helpful. So that's a great practice every day if you can. I'm saying that to me as well. I need to do that more often. So last thing I want to say before I read this card for us is that I've been making some mala beads recently, keeping myself busy with that. If you've been wondering what I've been doing, if you would like to get yourself one of these beautiful malas, again, you can send me an email or send me a message on my Instagram, Miss Synchronicity. And they're just really beautiful tools to work with. And I also have been making some candles because it's that time of year here in the West where we're going into the darkness. So again, I post a lot of that on my Instagram if you're ever interested in purchasing something physical from me. That's what I've been up to. And of course, I do personal readings, so you can find me on Patreon, or we can set something up through PayPal, a call. My services are open there. So, alright, let's see what card we got. So I felt called to stop here when I was shuffling. So, we'll see what card we get. Alright, we have Queen of Wands. So, very fiery energy. Again, very potent for this time of year, because autumn equinox, you're calling in more of that transformational, that fire energy. Everything in nature is being transformed. You know, it's coming to harvest and coming to the end of the season or cycle, and where nature's at her highest, at her thriving at her best. She's dropping everything and she's preparing herself for the fall, for winter. So Queen of Wands gives me this strength. It's kind of like a balanced masculine feminine strength, because I would say that Queen of Wands reminds me more of masculine energy, but she's very balanced and she's very grounded with it. So she doesn't let the masculine energy take over. She very much balances it with her feminine, but she's not afraid to show her strength and use her anger righteously. So, I would say that if you're going through divine discontentment in any way, she might be a really powerful archetype for you to call on, because she's all about transformation. So I'm actually just going to look in the little booklet that I have for this Tough deck, because even though I know what she's about, this book does pull up some things that are different to what I would say. But just finally, I would say that this card is about using your will to move forward. That's why I say it's quite a masculine energy. It's about taking action. And it's about using your connection with spirit to be a motivation for you to move forward. So a bit like that divine will we were talking about, that can be a space of clarity for you and finding some inspiration. So, Queen of Wands. What do we have here? Oh, she also has her leopard next to her. So, cat energy also reminds us to slow down. They're very zen. They're very calming. Cats, they always take note of the situation around them. And they don't rush into anything unless they're, being really too curious. That can happen. But cat energy is very slowed down. So again, another theme, another topic for what we're working on right now is slowing down and integrating all of this information. So, Queen of Wands represents the watery part of fire. Interesting. A woman of adaptability, persistent energy, calm authority, with great power to attract, generous but impatient of opposition. So, generous but impatient of opposition. This could be something that she has to transmute, because then she will have this greater power when she steps into her power and allows it to be reclaimed, so to speak, through working on impatience, for example, with time. That can be a big one when it comes to divine discontent. You might feel bored with time. She can claim her calm authority. Peace is stillness in this case. So if you were to look at this from the worst case scenario, which I don't know if it'll be helpful, but anyways, a woman who is stupid, obstinate, revengeful, domineering, quick to take offense without good cause. So, that could be something that arises when we get kind of foggy in the mind and we can't figure out what's going on within us. We might make stupid decisions, but again, that's the extreme case scenario. So I hope you'll take what resonates there and leave the rest. Your fortune is very much up to you, and you carry that spark of light and truth and creation and confidence to be you within you. It doesn't have to be outside of you that you find that, but if this video could inspire that within you, then that would be my main goal for sharing this. So that would make me happy. So thank you for tuning in and for listening all the way. Really appreciate you very much. So we'll see you soon, and take care.